never gets the last laugh.
No
Only one solitary damned soul left to slaughter. Dear old Dad.
All right, we are live. Go ahead and take it away, Jimmy.
You know, I'm going to take this away because here's the thing, man. A couple months back, I had the pleasure of talking to, I'm going to just blow smoke right now. Brandon Bradley is a phenomenal actor. I saw Succubus. We did a couple of Q&As I moderated for him. I was blown away. We became instant friends. And then he told me about this movie, The Devil and the Daylong Brothers. And I've been a fan. I think it's one of the best upcoming movies. I've seen a couple upcoming films that others I can't talk about. They suck. This thing's great. So Jackson, and this is our first time kind of bringing on actual filmmakers to talk, and you couldn't get a group of nicer guys. I don't know you, Nick, but I'm sure you're amazing. Nick, you were did the music. You brought this thing to life. Brandon, this is your baby, and Brendan, you're just amazing. So, that Jackson, you watched the movie last night. Like, let's share your thoughts.
I did. Now, going into it, it was a blank slate. I didn't really know what to think. Jimmy just told me that he enjoyed it. And for me, I'm somebody who I think writing is very important. You could tell a story. I think it's some book about some guy in a boat or some shit like that. But if it's written well, if you're talking about what he's thinking, what he's going through, it can be a very compelling and meaningful story. And for me, I was telling Brendan when we first started, my main background for stuff like this is in political commentary and working with campaigns and stuff. So, a bit different, but I've been really excited to step into this space because I think that there's so much that you really can do with storytelling. Because at the end of the day, really what human beings are the stories that we tell ourselves, whether they're right or wrong. That's a lot of how we learn and how we grow and how we develop based on what we believe. And so, that's really what is exciting to me about doing stuff like this and diving into storytelling. To me, Devil and the Daylong Brothers was a really fun story. It was a fun ride. I thought the cinematography was really good, just how things were filmed. I thought the characters were hilarious. And it was an interesting way to look at people struggling with their humanity and finding ways to cope with the world that they've been thrown in, that they didn't ask to be a part of. Because, it was kind of like a Wild West. Like these guys seem to be off the grid, not really a part of society in a full way. And you want to see them as just like these kind of murderous, rebellious people. But then throughout the story, you see that that's not really quite what's going on. They've been tricked. And the ending was really compelling to me. I thought one of the strongest sets of dialogue in the movie when they finally got to their father. And then it's like, maybe we've been going down a wrong path. Maybe this isn't really how we should handle it. And when he said, in order to sing the blues, you got to live them. And then I thought that song, Lay My Burdens Down, I thought that was a really good song. I love the blues. I'm a huge music fan in general. But I thought that there were just a lot of really compelling things about this movie. And the music, too, as I was telling Brendan when we first got on, I'm not like a huge fan of musicals. Like, I don't dislike them, you know what I mean? But it's not like necessarily like I'm like the first thing I think of when I want to go see a movie. But I thought that the music in this, one, it was just great music. And two, like it wasn't too much. It wasn't too little. It came around right at the right times. And the songs kind of explained who these people were and how they felt. So I thought it was just a good project. It's something I would watch more than once. Like if it was on, I would watch it. If I'm, like got a date or something, we're hanging out, I'd check it out. I think it's a great project. I really did enjoy it sincerely.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, Brendan, he's talking about storytelling, and I agree. This is a really, not only is there an interesting story in the film, but getting this made sounds like it was an adventure in itself. Could you give us a kind of a story of how this movie came about with all of you?
Sure, yeah, I'll give it a run. I started actually about 10 years ago. Came up with the story, and it was kind of, I was thinking about maybe making it a novel, but fast forward a couple years, and Nick and I are talking about what's our first feature going to be. We've made a lot of these musical kind of shorts before, and we love doing them, and they've gotten a lot of success. So we're like, screw it, let's do this Southern Gothic musical. And so we wrote The Devil and the Daylong Brothers together, and we took about 2 years to put it together. And it was me working on the screenplay, Nick working on the songs, and we're firing the back and forth to each other, and we're kind of like building off each other's energy and vibes and artistic, creative abilities. And then it was time to get the movie made, which was an absolute freaking nightmare. Well, it was like the worst thing ever. So we got called out to LA, and we got all the fancy, nice tour with all the couch and water tour. And it was very, very nice. And they were all very nice. They loved Daylong. They loved the movie. Oh my God, they loved it. It was so great, right? But nobody would do shit for it because it was too risky and too weird, right? And hey, if you go get a big name, big like person who can draw some money, then we'll go for it. But like, who the hell is that? I got nothing. We're just filmmakers from Georgia. So we said, screw it. And we went home and we made it ourselves. We self-funded it, and we scratched it out of the freaking dirt and clawed it out of the ether with our bare hands. So it was quite the journey.
Nick,
Cool.
Yeah. What do you have to add to that? That's kind of amazing.
Yeah, and definitely compelling. 10 years in the making, and it's interesting how stuff can just go like that sometimes, and because there's so much that you don't have control over in life, and sometimes it just isn't the right time. And then I can imagine as you write a story, maybe over time you may change your ideas on certain things. So sometimes it may end up working out for the best. But that's definitely a hell of a journey, a whole decade.
Yeah, we had made, like Brandon said, it's funny, we just, we were making so many shorts, and we kind of stumbled upon this style. I don't really understand why. We just did. It evolved from music videos, and those were seeing some traction. And Brandon was like, as he was developing his craft as a writer, he just wanted to explore that, maybe make it together. And I wasn't, like you said, Jackson, not a fan of musicals. I was kind of the same way. I was kind of more agnostic with them. Like, it's okay. Like I love some of them, and some I had a big distaste for, and some of the really overblown Hollywood ones I wasn't a huge fan of, and some of the old classics I thought were amazing. And so we very much stumbled upon this style. And when we had tried, Brandon definitely fast forward through it. We had written mini films, and people in that town loved what we had done, but they didn't have a lot of belief that we could ever kind of pull it off because we were so independent. And so after the fourth or fifth go around of trying to get a different project funded, that was like, and it wasn't even us like trying to make some 4-quadrant thing. It was just us trying to make a movie we thought would work. We just said, screw this, man. I'm tired of this. You put so much effort into these things and they just turn into nothing. It's just, we have a shelf of screenplays you could stack up, And so we had just thought, well, let's just try it one more time with something that only we would do. I remember there was a quote Tarantino said, like, make the film that would only exist if you made it. It doesn't exist because you haven't made it. And so that kind of idea went into it. And so when we dove into this, it very much turned into, well, let's see what films of our shorts have traction. We had kind of market research, and the ones that were these weird musical ones, one particular, Blood on My Name, is very much, we didn't lifted that kind of bad guy, The Dread, and put it in this feature. But when we were out there in Hollywood, everyone's like, where's the feature version of this short? And we're like, I don't know, we just hadn't really thought about it. And so when we came out there with this film, like Brandon said, very accurate, like they thought it was the coolest thing in the world. But that town's built on not making stuff, people trying to protect their job. And I think we heard from several different people, like, if this hits, it'll be a big hit because this is super unique. And if it finds its audience, you're going to take off. But if it misses, it will be the most obvious miss of all time. And it was funny. I couldn't disagree. I was like, you're right. It's a very binary film. I think people are either really going to like this and go, this is super original and unique and cool, or they're going to go, this is not for me. And I would not take any offense to that. I absolutely understand that, but that's kind of the why we ended up going down this route. It really was just, this was what we did. We stumbled upon it, and it was super authentic for us in our journey,
Sometimes it may be better if it's, you know, like really polarizing, if people really like it or really don't, because then perhaps you can more so identify your audience for something like this. I mean, look, I feel like if a Brother Where Art Thou did what it did, you know, then this can easily have an audience too. Because again, like I really liked it. Like, and I obviously I can't speak for everybody, but if it wasn't good, I wouldn't think it was. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm being fair. Like if I thought that, because again, for me, it's all about the story. It's, you know, it's like what's actually going on, what's actually happening. And I thought that you guys did a really good job telling a solid story. While it was just like I kind of felt like I was on shrooms while I was watching it. Because it was just.
That's really shared. That's part of it, Jack. That is the
Yeah, maybe we need to do some micro dosing before we check it out. But I mean, like, it just really grabbed you. You know, like the camera work, the personalities of the brothers. Like, it just had me the whole time. I thought it was cool. I thought it was.
That's awesome, man. Thank you. Thank you so much.
How did you write the music for everything? Like, what was your thought process about that?
You know, part of like the making of it, as we were saying here, it took a while to do, and it's not because, you know, we just were slow at it. It was because, you know, it came up. We went through some pretty hard times, and it was like, do we either, you know, hang up our hat, or do we try this again? And when we decided to do it, it was like, all right, you start with nights and weekends. We got to feed our families. We all have families that we got to do these things, keep the lights on, you know. And I tell everyone, like, you got to have two things, like something to keep your lights on in your house and something to keep your lights on your soul. And for us, this was like the project that kept the lights on our soul. And, you know, as we were doing it, there's a lot of books on how to write a movie, like how to write a screenplay. They're everywhere, right? But there's a total of zero on how to write a musical. And so we were really, you know, we knew Brandon, you know, was a machine with the formula of story. Robert McKee screaming at us, you know, all these sayings and all the little books. And it's like, okay, I understand this and I understand my page count in 20 minutes. I have an inciting incident, all these things, but the math wasn't tracking for our movie. And it was because we had these songs shoved in there. And so, out of pure desperation, I pulled up all my favorite musicals. I probably did 20 of them. And I made a huge spreadsheet that was, you know, a time code, first song in, how long that song was, what's going on, song out, and just big math. And by the time I got done with it, I realized that what we were trying to make was more of like a 90s Disney action or animated film, like Lion King or Aladdin or Little Mermaid. Like, those films have about 6 or 7 songs in them. They're not Les Mis, that's people singing dialogue wall to wall, and it's not, you know, Mary Poppins with, you know, dozens, if not, you know, there's like 50 songs in that movie. So like, we weren't doing that. And so once we realized that we were kind of, which is an odd thing, by the way, to present a brand like, hey, I think we're making Aladdin, you know, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but
Yeah, it's like closer to Frozen than anything else, right?
and it really was like, it's these two grown men watching Frozen at our office trying to figure out, okay, this song's in here, this is how it sets up. But that really was the thing that got us to the finish line. Once we understood that we were trying to make, okay, well, this is the structure we can go at. We're only going to do 6, 7 songs. I forget, it means in the film, I think there's maybe 7. But that really let us go, okay, we have time to write scenes and develop stories. And, you know, that's a lot of the critique with, like, you know, Moulin Rouge is my favorite thing in the world, but, you know, the characters aren't that deep because you're singing everything. It's all about these show-stopping things. And so we really wanted to make a film that said something about hypocrisy and, you know, all the deep religion in the South and all this stuff. And we were trying to, you know, we didn't want to shoehorn it in there. And if you would have had, you know, 20 songs, that's what it would have been. It would have been a story that's like this deep with a bunch of cool music, hopefully. But we wanted something more. So we took the songs down to be, all right, we got to kind of write some bangers here, 7 of these things, so that we have room for characters and story. And I tell everyone, like, it really should feel a little familiar, and you don't know why, because when you watch a musical, it's what are you getting into? But this is because it's really a Disney structure. You've seen, everyone who hasn't seen The Little Mermaid, you know, like it's something that we've all seen. And so it really should feel familiar when you watch it. That's kind of how we got into it.
We've never gotten Frozen from you guys. We've never. That's still rad because I actually love Frozen. So there you go.
Yeah, great.
Well, how did you guys get involved in? You know, you've got the script. This is a casting thing. Where did you pull your cast from besides this lovely gentleman here?
Well, we got in contact with an incredible casting director. Her name is Erica Arvold, and she's like legendary. She read the script and was like, "I love this. I'm in. Let's do it." could never have afforded her or gotten her any other way. But she believed in the project, and then she brought in some of these, the most talented people I've ever seen. And she only brought like 1 or 2 auditions for each character. She had done all the work, and it was just like, all right, sit down. We just see these last few, and they were all perfect. I mean, it really was just like the perfect thing. The only one that wasn't perfect that I right away was Brendan Bradley's. I saw his audition. No, hear this. I saw his audition. I'm like, that's not how the character sounds. And I was sitting there thinking about it, and then I played it again. I was like, damn, that's really cool though. Maybe it's cooler than what I have in my head. And turns out Brendan had a character in his head that was even cooler than what I had. So I had
both. Yeah, we both came to that conclusion. He was the very first Ish that we saw, and it was jarring because it wasn't. I think it was in other heads. And then you go home and you watch the tapes back, and the more I watched, I was like, God, that's well said, Brandon. Like, that's better than what was in my head. That's cooler. It's scary, but funny and creepy. And I'm from Georgia. I know that guy. I know that, got this kind of wiry voice and talks like this. And you're like, I know that guy. And so it was funny. We came back, and same thing with Abe, really, like Jordan's character. We both met a couple of days later, and we both were like, yeah, these are the people, just right out of the gate. That's how we felt. And, to piggyback on that too, Brendan, it's a tough job when casting a movie anyway. Like, you got to find the right person for this, but then every time you write a character, you're taking the width and breadth of humanity, and you're kind of doing this right till you find the right person. But then if they need to be able to sing, you go from this to like this. It's not easy, which is why I think Erica also, like, she's like, here's a few choices here. We've had dozens of people, but they had to be able to do the scene and sing the song. And so Brendan specifically, I gave him one, like, hey, I'm going through the music. Like, this is the hardest part he probably has. Let's see what he can do. It's a high thing. And he stood in front of a microphone and just did this, like that song Ties That Bind has that really long note at the end. It's just like, it was, as I was writing, I was like, I want to make this singer just sing until his air is gone. And so asking him to sing that when we saw his audition, and it's just, the ties that bind, and you just see his face, and it's like getting red, and he's kind of holding his hands up. And I was like, all right, cool. He can do it. That's it. So, but that's a tough thing to ask all these people to sing as well as act,
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, and the voice that Brendan chose really stuck out to me immediately. She's like, we ain't no murders. We ain't no murders. Yeah, that really.
It's all, I love it.
It's very mod. I love it. It's unsettling.
Brendan, we need to tell the story of how you came up with this voice. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Well, so again, it's kind of this, when you're auditioning for something, you're kind of one in thousands and thousands, and that you're just throwing something at the wall. And they always say make a bold choice, but you never want to just make random choices. And I think what Brandon and Nick are a bit too humble to really talk about is that, I think any actor that is kind of worth their salt, you get this beautiful information every time you get an audition. Yeah, you get limited pages, you might get the one song, but people's names. You can look them up and figure out what work they've done before. And the legacy that they have from the White Stone shorts. They've done behind-the-scenes documentaries about their work. Brandon's done a TEDx talk. You start to really understand these guys are the real deal. Like, I had no chill entering this project. I was like, I am playing with guys that are at the Olympic level. Yeah. I want this more than you should want it going into that first audition, because you're going to just kind of be almost too desperate for the job because you need to be a part of this universe. You need to be a part of this world. And the character on the page, I actually did get the full script. And, you think of Ish, he opens, he's murdering, he's menacing, he's the leader of these boys. And you think, oh, I'm going to drop down my voice. I'm going to get gravelly. I'm going to get intense. I'm going to Batman this shit. Like, that's what we're doing. Like, I'm going to scare people. And then there's one line from Rainey's character, Francine, when I'm not even in the scene. It's just a random scene that she has with Enoch where she says Ish was a Death Eater, a Sin Eater in the Blue Ridge. And you go, oh, crap. Okay, so this guy's from Blue Ridge, grew up dirt poor. He was a Sin Eater. He's sing-songing. He's up here. He's doing this up in here. And I'm like, but that's completely contradicting what I want to bring to this character. That's not scary. That's not menacing. And then you read the scenes and you go, okay, or is it? Is it actually scarier that this guy is not the biggest guy in a fight? He's not the most muscular. he is just a hyena that has turned wild on the world, and you just don't know what he's going to do next. And in some ways, that unpredictability, when you meet him just in his voice alone, you go, I don't know what this guy's capable of, which makes him far more menacing and far more unpredictable. And I think that really leaning into that made the audition that much more fun and made me feel that much more assured in that choice. Which is why it was so great that, like, with the first thing Brandon said to me when I got to Georgia was, we almost didn't hire you because of that voice. Like, I was so mad at you for that voice, but then I was like, damn it, it's right. And the other thing I did when auditioning was I held the largest knife in my house for the entire audition. Yeah. So I just played with a knife for the whole audition. And I'm not one of those, twirlers or, I'd never really done any kind of knife play before. And so once I had the job, I immediately then got a rubber knife and started just twirling every day and flicking it around every day because I wanted to make sure that was in that muscle memory. But yeah, the voice was what definitely secured the role for me, but also almost lost me the job.
Love it.
Wow.
Well,
Yeah, I definitely agree that it disarms people. Like you don't really know what to expect. And then the next thing you know, this dude done shot you 8 times and then stabbed you up. And yeah, so I think that I think that definitely worked really well. Because like I said, it stuck out to me immediately. I was like, oh shit. Like, because I would have thought too that you would have had more of like the Batman approach.
Right.
That really worked. Was it just it just, I mean, you said that you thought about Blue Ridge, but was it just kind of like an intuition type of thing? Like, let me just try it like this. Did it just come out when you were reading the script, or did you really think about it?
I think once I saw that line, I was like, oh no, he has to sound like that. And to Nick's point, so I grew up in North Carolina. Like, I know this guy. And if you're ever in a scenario, for me, like, being in different parts of the South is constantly an exercise in code switching. And so when you're in a certain situation and you run into a guy like Ish, it doesn't matter whether you think you're smarter or tougher than that person. You immediately want to start transitioning to make sure that he knows you're not threatening him. And so for me, it was knowing that if I could just trust in the inherent kind of discomfort of somebody who is just who he is, and he is that disarming. The other thing about it is when you really read the script and you really get into the story, and what I think is most heartbreaking watching the entire movie is all 3 of these boys were abandoned. This is a story of 3 little boys that never really grew up. And in some ways, their vengeance, their revenge, their frustration is all from this kind of lack of maturity that they've never been able to really grow up. They've never really been able to come and to reckon with where they come from and their circumstances. And I think that the movie ultimately is that moment. And I think that we all do have this moment at some point in our lives as humans, when you can start seeing your parents and you start seeing their age and you start seeing the choices that they made when they were the years that you have now lived. When you start going, oh, those are the choices they made in their 20s and their 30s and their 40s. And you just are really humanizing them. And it matures you in real time, those moments, that you start really having a profound understanding of what it is to human, essentially. And the lessons that you can gain from parents that weren't really taught lessons. And so I think that what these boys are really going on is this journey of maturity. To start maybe making some decisions that weren't the decisions that their circumstances handed to them. And when I came at Ish from that direction again, it means he's a kid. At the end of the day, he's a little boy that never grew up. And so I think that also lent itself to making him higher pitched instead of lower pitched.
Yeah, I think that's a really good breakdown in terms of what the story is really about. And I think you really see that. One of the scenes that really sticks out to me is towards the end when Abraham's playing his guitar and his dad tunes it up for him, and he's happy, like the look on his face, like he's transported back to a life that he wished he could have lived with his father. And I think that was translated and shown really powerfully and strongly. And then after he sang, I can't let my burdens down, they changed. They really were. It's like a lot of the connection and the talks and the things that they wanted. It's like they got it and they understood why they couldn't really get it. And their father, despite the fact that he sold their souls for something relatively cheap, he's just a man and he's hurting and he's somebody that's really not much different than them. So I think that that's definitely a very good way to break down the movie. Because like I said, and Nick, also what you said about how there not being too much music in the movie lets you see that story and lets you see that depth. So because that's one of the things that really stuck out to me a lot. It was like there's just enough music in this, and the music's really good. So yeah, I think that was really cool.
And a lot of the trick was to make sure that the music was an extension of like the scene, right? So like,
Yeah.
I would build the scene up and up and up, and then it would kind of hand off into the song, and the song would then elevate it farther than words could ever take it. Because when you run out of words, you bust out into song. So like that was kind of this. We really designed this handoff to really, really kind of be smooth, so that it didn't feel just plopped in there. We kind of tried to earn every song that was in there.
Well, it doesn't feel like a musical in a way. It doesn't. It feels like like you said, it's an extension of these characters. So as you're watching it, you're not taken out because they're doing the song again. Mm-hmm. It works so well. Nick, you were interrupted.
No. I just was gonna say, yeah, it really is that's always when we're working on these the script together, we'll put it up on the TV and look at it, and that moment where the baton is handed from the screenplay to the song is terrifying. And that's honestly what we spent probably the most time on. So, okay, like what are the words? Like what are this? It's like you really are just tiptoeing up. And I love when he gets in the second song, he holds the hand, he's just like, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. He's like, vengeance is why he made us. Like, it's like you just get to this thing and you really are just going, okay, this is as much as I can say. If you're going to do something, here it is, hand it off like a baton. And then it's always my job to get it back. You know what I mean? Like, okay, how can we get out of this in a way that lets the story keep going, as opposed to people going like, oh, where's the next song coming in?
Yeah.
I will say one thing about the handoff is that in the barn, kind of the climax of when the dread is closed in on our brothers, and there's a moment where I spike camera, and have a bold choice that erupts into the song and erupts into a big fight with our brothers, and then a car chase and all the things that we love. But when we were filming it and I made the choice to spike camera, Brandon said, I don't know, man, like, isn't it a bit much? And I said, Brandon, I'm about to start fucking singing. Like, this ain't it. And I don't know what is.
Cheered. That's how you know it's right. Yeah. Everyone was like, of course. Like you kind of look around and the crew, again, we've self-funded. So this crew was 20-year-olds. I mean, everyone said, this is their first movie for the most part. And so you're looking around at people and it's like, they know what we're doing. And when you go, what do you guys think? It's definitely like, you look around, everyone's like, of course, like that's what this movie is, And so I think I was at, I wasn't on set when that happened. I came back and Brandon told me, and the same thing. I was like, well, can we do that? And then Brandon just kind of told me, I'm like, yeah, of course. Yeah. We got one without it. We got one with it. And then you watch it. It's like, well, of course we're going to use the one where he kind of gives a little wink to the audience. Like, hey guys, we're going to sing and throw a knife and we're going to sing and crash cars and hang on. We'll get back.
Honestly, that's a big part of it too, though. I mean, like making a movie that's like self-aware, like this movie's not super serious about itself. Like the movie, like I always told the actor guys, and it's like these characters know that they're characters in a movie. Like they're aware that they look cool if they stand this way, right? Like it's all kind of this farce because because they're gonna sing songs, they're gonna burst into songs. So like we can't take it too serious. We had to be very kind of like tongue in cheek and be very aware of the genre, which made it fun because then you can do stuff like spike camera and it makes sense because of course you would in the Daylong movie,
Well, like Brandon said, they're little boys. These kids didn't grow up. I mean, like every time you see him, he's trying to be cool. And even with his, we don't show this, but he meets Ish, who's his older brother, and he's copying Ish. He's got his toothpick, like Ish is always taking it to, like, they're little boys who never grew up. And, like that's a whole other component of the film. Like I lost my dad at a young age, and I just know it's funny. You don't set out to do these things when you make art. You just kind of you're so focused on it, and then you step back when you're done. At least for me, anyway. I always look back and go, "Oh my God, I just threw my soul into this thing. I didn't even realize I was doing it consciously." But yeah, all these kids had no dad and grew up, and that absolutely changes you. And there's so many things that you do to kind of compensate for that, and their gravitas and ridiculousness is for sure part of that. Just trying to be important. They weren't important enough for their own dad, right? He left them, and so there's this hole in their soul where they're trying to be cool and important. And so, Ish with his sunglasses or toothpick, they're all a little bit much, doing their thing, but that's just them, projecting and compensating for what they don't have, but it's at least grounded in something reality other than just it looks cool, a little both.
I feel like it's so dangerous to try and be cool. Like if you go out to like try and be cool, it just sucks. You just come off as like really try hard. So we weren't trying to be cool. You don't make a musical and try to be cool, So like we were just trying to be fun and exciting and different. But yeah, and cool was the last thing on our mind. So hopefully it by doing that, it kind of turned out pretty cool.
It is cool
because it's authentic.
Yes,
Authentic.
it's I want to say, Jackson, you've been talking about this, and I agree with this. There's so much here, and we're talking about people that Nick. I lost my father pretty young too. It's always hard. How when you're writing something that personal, is there ever a moment where you're like, well, dude, I don't want to talk about this shit. Or did you just throw it all in with both of you? Because it does seem very deep. It does seem like you're dealing with a lot of shit in here that shouldn't be in a musical, but it works.
Yeah, you have to wear, I don't have any other gear other than authenticity and I'm a musician. Like my heart's on my sleeve all the time. To a fault, it gets me in trouble all the time, but I don't have any pretense or any other gear. Like I'm very much a straight shooter. I'm going to tell you how I feel. I'm going to try to be kind. There's a lot of intentionality and choice and just me as a human being to try to be the opposite of how I feel like I'm wired, just to be a good person. But like, yeah, it has to go in the movie. And I don't know if it's so much a conscious decision or just I have one gear, which is if there's one rule for me is like if it's cool or if it's good, it's going in there. I don't really care about whether we make a musical or a horror film, much to Brandon's chagrin. Brandon loves genre. I'm like, I don't really care. Like if I look at this and go, I think this is good, then I'm going to give it my A game. It doesn't really matter what it is. Brandon very much was the one pushing to do this. He pushed to do a feature music for a while. I just felt overwhelmed by the task of having to do that. And when I kind of came around and said, fuck it, let's just try it. Why not? I may as well. Like we were in a pretty decent hole in our lives. And I was like, well, you can't really go any lower. You may as well just try something else, and that all of that showed up on the page, thankfully. But yeah, as you said, Jackson, it came from a extremely authentic place. There was no us trying to do anything other than, well, this is what we do. And sometimes it's cool. And some people will be, oh, this is really me. I love this. And some people are like, dude, you just made a musical. Musicals aren't cool. It's like, well, that's what we do though, And
I think that I think that authenticity is what made it work, because there weren't none of the transitions were corny. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like that's a good word to use because sometimes like when things aren't really authentic and you feel like, okay, we have to place this here, it just doesn't feel right. It's like it can just not come off right. And for me, like one of the most powerful scenes to me was Francine's death, because it's so much was going on at that time. She was kind of trying to, she was trying to escape. She didn't want to die. They knew that they were going to kill her. So she was working with what she could. And when Abraham, he was so ready to get rid of her. But then when she actually got killed, he was heartbroken because he felt guilty about his role and his association with her pain and her grief and what she had to do, even though he was avoiding that. And that's why I said, to me, it seemed like as Brendan pointed out, three men who were still boys, and they never really were forced to confront their humanity. And then something that drastic really did, because to me, that was a point in the story where there was a lot of hopelessness, because they just learned that all the killing and all the violence that they had done, wasn't for the ends that they thought it was for. You know, that it wasn't gonna give them salvation. Everybody was just getting conned. The devil was having his way. And so I didn't think he was gonna shoot her either. Because he didn't want to. And then it's like all these people are it's so much disillusionment all at once. And then I felt like that was a really big turning point in the story, because it's like, where the hell do you go from here? Like, how do you redefine this? What is there even to live for at this point? And so I thought that was a really good scene. And yeah, man, I think that y'all did a really fantastic job with this project. I really do. And it's cool too, and also motivating that it took you so long to do it and you stuck with it. You know what I'm saying? I think that as an entrepreneur, it's always cool to see other entrepreneurs just sticking with it, because that's the reality of life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that
Well,
was
Jackson, you know, you're used to politics, and right before we went live, we talked about how, you know, you were like, well, it's nice to be with film where it's not as divisive, and I was like, I don't know, cinema is pretty divisive. And you know, I think especially in times like these, we've been told repetitively by the audience that Hollywood just makes the same movie. It's all reboots. It's all the same thing. There's nothing original. And I think to take such a big swing with something so original and a universe whose rules even break mid-movie, where the whole journey they've been on isn't true, and then having to kind of come out the other side of that, I think is miraculous. And I don't know how much of the story Brendan and Nick want to tell, but I think that we aren't always aware as movie lovers of the true fight that it takes for every story to get told. The entire industry we know is against independent film, but it sometimes seems that cinema itself is against independent film. And what these guys weathered with, you know, making the movie and COVID and the strike, and now trying to get distribution for a movie that doesn't have, you know, huge A-list names. We got Keith Carradine coming in and sing the song live on location, which is a miracle. And I actually don't know that story of how we even got him. And if one of y'all want to tell that story, but then, but this whole idea of what the kind of state of the entire entertainment industry is right now. And if you want to see something like nothing else out there that pissed off a lot of people to get here, I think Devil and the Daylong Brothers is unlike anything else you're ever going to watch.
Well, that's funny, because that's what Keith said. I got on the phone with him and he read the script and he's like, Erica was like, Keith wants to talk to you. I'm like, that's awesome. All right, cool. I pick up the phone. He's like, listen, I've read a lot of scripts. I've never read anything like this. I said, all right, that's either a compliment or you're going somewhere. He's like, no, it's a compliment. I'm in. So he said he just wanted in. He's just like, this is cool and I want to be a part of it. And he just came out for peanuts to come out and in the middle of freaking nowhere to just, to play this role for us. And really, I mean, he elevated the entire production up, because he's just such an icon. He shows up on set. It was like, you know, having cinema royalty on your set. It was like, I wasn't necessarily directing him as much as I was trying to figure out how to like learn how to direct from him, you know, trying to pick up his vibes. But it was amazing. It was great to have him on set. But the same thing. He just said that, hey, there's nothing like this and I want to be in it, which is cool.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, one of the weird things about the way we had to do this is, you know, you want to, when someone shows up and they're going to be so raw and kind of bare their soul, and even like, you know, acting's its own thing, but I think actors are used to being in front of, you know, 20 people up to 100 people on set. You just kind of, that's the world. But like in a studio, it's just you and a dude and a microphone, and it's a lot. Like if I had to play in front of 100,000 people, I probably wouldn't be nervous. But you make me play in front of you guys right now, but oh God, like there's just something that's uncomfortable about that. And so for whatever reason, the way our schedule was, I had to make a record that first week. We had a week of rehearsals, and like, you know, the first day, it's like these guys came in and I didn't get to go have lunch with them. I was busy setting up the little portable recording studio, and everyone got to meet each other, and I was just working. And so they came in there and I had to kind of go through every act and every song and just do this thing. And that was the week of pre-production. And then we had been shooting for 2 weeks, and Keith shows up, and you talk about independent filmmaking, our DP threw his back out. And so he couldn't hold the camera. And so Brandon, for the biggest set piece that ties the bind the entire action sequence, Brandon filmed it. He picked up the camera and just did it himself. And then in the middle of that day, our producing partner Carl's like, "Hey, Keith is here. He's at his hotel. He wants to talk to you." And I was like, "Me?" He's like, "Yeah, he wants to talk to you because he's got to sing the song and has some questions." I said, "Okay." And so like I felt bad because it was like this is the biggest day we had, and Brandon was off by himself, and I was like, "I gotta go talk to this Oscar winner. So y'all have a good time." And I went to his hotel and like kind of psyching myself up to meet this guy, and the door opens to a random room and he walks out and goes, "Hey," like he was just so excited to meet me. It was so weird. I was whatever I was expecting. He disarmed me times infinity, man. I walked in there, he gave me a hug, and we just sat down and started playing guitar and talking. And he kind of said the same thing to Brandon. He was like, "I read a script a day. Like I read them all the time. This is what my life is, read scripts. I've never seen anything like this in my entire life. And I don't know what you guys are doing, but I had to be a part of this, you know?" And like Brandon said, I mean, he was paid next to nothing and there was no place to stay. He's looking around his hotel in the middle of nowhere. He's like, "I'm assuming this is the Ritz." I'm like, "Bro, this is as good as it gets." The crew was staying at a camp, it's called Camp Swamp in the middle of nowhere. And our production company found it. And it was these double wide trailers and it was not the best, but we were thrilled to make the movie, and he's at an actual hotel and he was like, "This is what we got." And then we just hung out and talked music, and he just got to tell me stories. But it just, you're sitting there realizing like he won an Oscar for sitting down in the movie and playing a song. And we kind of asked him just the same thing. And when we started filming the first part of the day and everyone left set, I was like, "We got to get this song." And we wanted to do it live out in the woods. And so there was a million things going on. Someone was drilling. We location scouted, man. And it was literally the middle of nowhere. Like it's the perfect environment to record, just whisper quiet. But for whatever reason, someone decided to hire a well digging company the week we were filming. And so like the most loud, obnoxious, like dun, 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 like the whole day. And so I think our partner went out there and he was like trying to buy these people off and they didn't want to stop. But he was out there stalling for about 20 minutes. And the song takes 5 minutes to track. And we had done 2 takes. And they both just had noise over it. And I'm sitting there like, my inside is just screaming. Like all of this stuff is coming to a head and I can't even get silence to record this thing. And then I guess he shows up and starts arguing with the foreman. And as he's arguing, they have to turn their machines off. And so he's arguing for about 10 minutes. And that gave us 2 takes without sound issues. It was just me. I mean, Brandon was there and it was like 3 people on set, and me and Keith played the song, and we got 2 takes. And this isn't me hyping up cinema and being dramatic. Like the last little chord rings out, ring, you got to have a little bit of a fade out, right? Well, the second it could possibly be cut, ding, 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 it starts up again. It was a literal miracle from God or the cosmos or whatever, but someone gave us 10 minutes and we got 2 takes of the song, and I got to kind of pick the best pieces. But it felt like a miracle. Like I just remember sitting there doing it going, "Do not forget this. This is one of the coolest things you will ever do, and be present and pay attention." You know what I mean? And it was a blast. He's as cool as it gets. There's few people in my life other than probably Brandon that spoke that much belief into me in that short amount of time. And he would tell these stories about like Bobby and Willie, and like that's just his life. And I'm like, I think he means Bob Dylan. I think he means Willie Nelson, and he's talking about, I talk about Tom Waits, how I was trying to channel some of that, or T-Bone Burnett from a thing. He's like, "Oh, me and Tom share a wife." And he's like, "Yeah, I divorced this lady, and then Tom married, so now we parent a kid." And I'm just like, he's just talking in these ways. And, I would drive the actors back to the hotel at the end of the day. And Brendan, one day we had a whole cast in there, and Keith is in the front. And they're kind enough to give him shotgun. And he's just talking, and we're all just like glued to him, listening just to tell normal stories about his life that just seemed like you could make a movie out of every story. But yeah, I'm rambling about Keith, but he really is as cool as it gets. And it was by far the highlight of my life, let alone the movie, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh my, that sounds like a dream come true.
It really was.
Yeah.
Absolutely. A good day. One day. It's all you need. It was a good day though.
Well, I mean, you guys have struggled a lot with this. I've heard some stories from Brandon here, and this took a long time. You're dealing with a lot of shit. You deal with, as Brendan said, COVID, the strike, all this stuff. Harder to get the movie released or make it?
Oh, gosh. I mean, when we got to make it, at least I could do something. Get it released, not have enough. It's just up to the freaking universe. So I like making the movie much more than trying to get it released, for sure.
Well, it's hard because you're making an original piece, and you know that the truth is, when you go to see it, you go to a Cineplex, you're not going to see, oh, all these movies. You're going to see the same fucking movie. That's it. And I think that's why we wanted to talk about this movie, and why, because this is a look. You have an independent film that a lot of times it feels independent. You see it. This is a marvelous movie. You have a car chase in here that looks fucking great. You have these top-notch performances, except for this guy, Brandon.
Brendan shoots somebody's leg off in this shit, man. All types of stuff going on.
It's so. I mean, this is it's a visual feast. There's so much here.
Yeah.
And that I think that's what I grew up. I love the movies of the 70s, and that's what I'm feeling watching this. I felt like they're a lot of these movies that are coming out that are we've had a good year with Strange Darling, with Succubus, and this is starting us off. Do you feel that do you think, okay, well, where can we go from here? Are you just focused on this story at this moment?
Oh, we're always working on stuff for sure. So yeah, we've got other musicals in mind. We've got other stuff we want to explore, genres and stuff like that. So yeah, we're always making content, which was hard because spending 10 years on one concept is really, really difficult, especially when we have so many ideas that we want to generate. But we knew this was the right one to live off of. But yeah, no, we're always working on stuff. We have a bunch of weird, unique stuff that we want to make, and probably no one will let us do it, and we'll have to go do it ourselves, like always.
Yeah, it's the around the seas that we do it. Oh, sorry, man.
Oh no, I was just gonna ask what kept you with it over all these years. What was it that made it such that
Stubbornness.
didn't shelf it?
Yeah, it was like
Tenacity, stubbornness. I don't know.
yeah, stubbornness and stupidity would probably be top of the list.
It's off, man.
Yeah, no, I feel like I was kind of haunted by the thing, man. Like it was just always there. It was something. It was like so raw and authentic and so like personal that like I don't know. I just felt like my guts on paper. It just had to happen. So like it was an inevitability. We couldn't help ourselves but to keep working at it to make it. It just felt like we had to. It was like a compulsion. So
From your soul, then.
yeah.
It's not still a part of you. It's really a part of you.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is, I mean, sorry, go, man.
No, go for it, Nick.
I was just saying, like, the truth is, in 2014, I mean, we went bankrupt. We were this close to going bankrupt, and it was because we started another film, and an investor literally pulled out the last day he could and just left us destitute. And it was like, well, what are we going to do? And that was like in February. And so we spent that entire year just trying to, literally pay rent just to stay alive. And so on New Year's Day of 2015, we sat down and we had our whole list of ideas, and it was like, do we stop? Because we had spent so much time trying to get something done and it just wasn't happening. And it was like, do we stop or do we do one more? And we try this weird movie and it wasn't a musical at that point. It was an idea that our agent and manager had been like, this is a weird one. This is a neat idea. Yet the guys who had their soul, that's really interesting. I've never seen that. And so we really sat there and looked at each other and was like, do we want to try one more and see if we can make something that we'll probably have to make? Maybe we can make it on nights and weekends or scrounge together some money, but just to prove to that town out there that we can actually do this. You just got so many people that love what you do, but don't believe in your ability to do it, which makes no sense. It's like, well, we did this. What do you mean we can't do this? Well, you've made a short. It's like, but we've made dozens of them, dozens and dozens and dozens, and won all kinds of awards. And you called us out here. You asked us to come meet you, but they just, same thing. It's like, well, if you could get Chris Pratt in this, I'm like, I don't know Chris Pratt. We're here to talk to you guys. Don't you know Chris Pratt? Like, I don't really see him in this, but if we have to put Chris Pratt in the movie to get it funded, all right, we'll find a place for him, but like, it just was such a disconnect for reality and for how I felt it should go. I'm very uneducated with the film business. I know how to make stuff, but as Brendan, is probably maddening with us, it's like, I don't know anything about the business. I know how to make something. And once we get done with that, it's like, well, I don't know what you do with the MOV file, but like, I don't really want to know. I want to put all my time. If I've got finite time, I've got a wife, I've got kids, I'm going to put it in to learning how to make that MOV file as good as I possibly can, and hope and pray that someone shows up and says, okay, I can do this part. If you can do literally all the work, then I'll come and I'll put your MOV file on a site somewhere. And that was the kind of hope and prayer along the way. And we just kept with it just for that very reason, just to, all right, if we do our thing, surely someone will show up and do their thing. And hopefully people will get to see it now.
Yeah.
I mean, as someone from the outside though of the process, I feel like there's something very special about walking onto a set with these guys. Because what they're not saying is that all those shorts have built a family. That style, that look, that grit, the feeling of Daylong Country is a community of artists that these guys have built into their family. And you are a guest into a huge family reunion of people that are far more talented than anyone I've ever met in every single capacity, in every single department, putting their own blood, sweat, and tears into every frame of this movie. And I saw more than anything is that no matter what, the distribution terms were with the state of the world and strikes and stuff like that, these guys owed a movie to their family. And they actually screened this movie when we had no distribution offers. People had passed over the film. Some festivals had said no. They rented a theater and said, fuck it. We owe a movie to our family. Everyone did great work. We're going to screen it for everybody. And so literally as I came out of the strike, the first thing that I got to do was sit in a theater in Atlanta with all the beautiful, incredible humans that made this movie and watch the thing we made. And that's the character of these guys. And that's what I saw time and time again was that family constantly pushing each other through this roller coaster of getting this movie made and hopefully seen by as many people as possible.
Yeah, I mean, make no mistake, the what makes Daylong is a group of people that are incredible, talented actors or artists. We definitely, I mean, like from production design, I work with the same production designer, Tanya. I work with the same costume designer, Dana. I mean, work with the same DP. I work with the same everybody because, we created kind of like this cohesive vibe. So, when you see it, it is an amalgamation of so many different people. And, we couldn't pay these guys their real rates, so we were paying like less than minimum wage out there. They were out there for the love of it.
No, they were paid minimum wage. Don't.
Oh, sorry.
No, legally.
All legal purposes. But I bled into this thing too. So it's not just us. It's a lot of people's blood, sweat, and tears into it. And I hopefully, that really is what sings about it,
Hey, for real though, I'm gonna hit that. Like, that's not a joke. Dana, just pick an example. She did the costume design for Walking Dead. Like, she's legit, and we paid her minimum wage. Everyone on crew made a next to nothing. It was like, all right, we need 20 days of your life. We've been doing this forever. Most of us are brothers and sisters and family at this point, and they wanted to do it. They would have done it for free, but it's like, well, we can't. Just legally, you can't do it for free. We have to have a SAG is involved. Like, we have to do something. And so we just, this minimum wage, I think it was like tiers. It was like $8.25 and $9.25. And I think maybe department has got $10.20. It was like $1 difference. But all of the crew that wasn't kind of our department head friends were like 19 and 20-year-olds. And most of them couldn't drink. And it was like, they just wanted a shot. But, they came from the same school of thought where, like, I'm the old guy on set. I was in my late 30s at the time, early 40s now, but it was like we all, that specialization in cinema is just gone. Everyone does everything now. Like my generation, you just had to. I know how to do all kinds of stuff. I mixed the whole film because we had to, and that's just how we were taught. Brandon, writer director seems like a new idea. Especially when you compare to the 60s, things like that. But it is like that's what you have to do to make a movie now. So everyone on set carried a lot of hats, and that's the only way it gets done is because people just believed in it and wanted to do it and didn't care about, you can't do that all the time, but like, all right, we need a month of your life after years of doing this, and every single person, there was zero hesitation, absolutely. We'll come in and do whatever it takes. We kept all union roles. We kept the same hours. We didn't do any some obscene film shoots. We made every single day. We never went over schedule. We never went over budget. We paid for it ourselves. We were very disciplined about it, but it was absolutely by the book, as legal as you can make it, but just by the skin of your teeth.
Right, past all the technicalities you needed to.
It did, man.
I was just gonna say one of the things that Brenda was saying about how these days movies just kind of all seem to be the same. I think this is a great time for this movie to come out because that's true. And one of the things Jimmy and I talk about is how you can't really wow people with special effects anymore the same way that you could 15, 20 years ago. That doesn't make the movie the same way that it used to. You have when Marvel was putting out like 30 movies a year, you couldn't really keep up with them. And the formula of like, all right, we're just going to put everybody into the movie and that's the movie. That just doesn't really work anymore, which means you got to get back to the writing. You got to get back to the story. And I think that that's an awesome place for the arts period to be in right now. You got to get back to the fundamentals and the basics. And again, that's why I like this movie. Above anything else, it was just a great story, very well made. Everything fit perfectly. It was just cool. It was a fun ride, and I'll definitely be watching this movie again. This isn't one of those things that you see once. This is something you can watch just for the hell of it, just for fun. If you got an afternoon where you're just chilling, maybe you want to grab some smoke or some drinks and just chill. You know what I'm saying? I think this is definitely a good movie for that, especially for people who just like music.
Don't forget the mushrooms.
Oh, you get the mushroom? No, I really do want to watch this on shrooms, though. And the colors, man, it's good.
I endorse that. Oh, I want to hear that. When you get done, I want to hear that.
That should have been this podcast. We should have just put it on. The number one.
But I think you gentlemen did a really excellent job. I enjoyed it. And also just sincerely, it's very inspiring that you stuck with this shit for as long as you did. Just is someone who, who self-funds, and I've been through a lot of ups and downs. It's just the journey. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes stuff works and then funding dries up and then you got to recalibrate. So definitely very inspiring that you guys stuck with this for 10 years. I definitely tip the hat to you, and I think it's a job well done. And keep it up, man. Keep it.
Thank you so much, man. I mean, that's again, saying the movie's cool and that we stuck with it is that's the highest compliment I could ever get. I really appreciate that. That's there's many times where you just want to stop. Like, what is the point of this thing? Like, it's just a fight that just won't go away. But yeah, as Brendan very eloquently said, I felt like we owed a debt to everyone that did it for nothing and killed themselves. It was for the actors. It was all of our, again, that cast is incredible, but it's very difficult to get anything seen by anyone. I could never be an actor. Just this idea that you're just constantly auditioning, I couldn't do it. And so to know that Brendan was so proud of the film, and Jordan and Nike and Rainey and everyone, just like none of these people are these huge stars, that they need this movie to come out because they want to be able to showcase what they can do. And Brandon and I are sitting here going, we want the exact same thing. The world needs. We all know Margaret Qualley. She's amazing, but her sister Rainey is absolutely incredible. And I want people to know that there's two Qualley sisters out there and they're both equally gifted, and the world deserves to see that. I want them to know the madness of Brendan's ability to he's just a true a master of his craft. To just put on this face and he's just a different person. Niken is this quiet guy who's kind of silly and giggly and laughing, but man, he would dial into an intensity that just I had never seen before. And Jordan, same thing, man. He's this kind of goofy guy and smiles and is always laughing. I was putting together all these outtakes for our press stuff, and I was just laughing at the number of times Brendan's over there trying to be dialed into Ish, and Jordan is just like dancing and singing New Kids or like, NSYNC songs, and Brendan's like trying to keep it together. And then it's like, all right, we're going to roll. Then Jordan he's right back into this kind of creepy guy, but like, everyone, we owe it to these guys for the world to see them, because there's absolute brilliance with these guys, and I could not be more proud of them and more honored that they were part of this experience. And I hope everyone knows the name Brendan Bradley here very soon, and Jordan Bolton and Niken Robinson and Rainey Qualley and who else am I forgetting? Brandon, Mark Ashford. Oh my gosh, Claire, it's the greatest actor ever. Mark, these people, they deserve to be seen in every movie that comes out because they're brilliant. Absolutely.
I love it. Yeah. Now, so we have the film is being released January 31st,
which is my birthday, by the way, January 31st. I will be 33 years old. You know what I'm saying? So it's just that's cool as hell. When he told me that, I was like, okay, cool.
Well, we have to, and we will. By the way, we should put Jackson. Should put spoiler alert. Spoilers. Yes. We should. People need to see this movie. It's a great movie. You complain about originality. This is as original as you get. It's entertainment. It's a fucking blast. It's a fucking blast.
Jimmy, you and I have talked a lot behind the scenes ever since Succubus about kind of, independent film and like first features. What would you think is the number one thing you would want to say to two first-time feature makers that have a movie about to come out? Like, what do you think that moment is a month out before your first feature? That'd be the best advice you would give a filmmaker.
Probably to be like you, because see, here's the thing. I think a lot of people will trust that, when you get a distribution deal, you think, well, they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing, and they do to an extent. But all they want to do is release a movie. You just want to get. If you're look, I just found out today I had my next film just is getting in film festivals. It's pushing the shit out there. It's getting it out there, and it's not stopping to talk about what Nick, Brandon, what you guys did. You guys stuck to your guns. You made the movie you wanted to make. I think that's important, and I hope that we see more of that. I think we're going to see a resurgence in independent cinema, because I do think where people aren't going to movies like they used to.
Yeah.
But I think you're going to see movies like, Long Legs was a big hit. Strange Darling kind of got people's attention. I want that.
Yeah.
Stick to your guns. Make the movie you want to make. Let's let Hollywood know. And fans need to do this too. They need to see the independent films.
Yes.
They need to. Go see the smaller movies because they're great. Rent them, stream them, do whatever you need to, but see them. This is a great film. Brandon, when you first pitched it to me, when you said talking about this, you were talking Tarantino meets a musical, and it's wild.
Yeah.
So please, I'm begging the audience, Jackson.
Yeah.
Go see this movie.
Check it out. Definitely go check it out. Hell yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy. That's so kind of you, man. That's awesome. It's very, again, you hope to be able to tell a story from set or to talk about it. So this is like a genuine honor to talk to you guys, and just, that someone watched our movie is like, oh man, that's the coolest thing in the world, let alone want to talk about it. Like, that's amazing.
Oh, yeah. When it comes out, we should do this all again. Let's a little bit.
You get Jordan and Nike on there, Randy.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, no, again, it's great. I really enjoyed it, and also it's really cool to just be doing this because this is still new to me. Being in this space and wanting to get more involved in the arts and storytelling and things like that. So it's you guys are cool as hell. In addition to making good good projects, I've enjoyed talking with you guys. I think you're all great, and I definitely look forward to more. And keep it up, man. Shit, if you got anything else that's been on the shelf for 5+ years, you go ahead and bring that out.
I hope that gap gets shorter, but I'm for sure. Yeah, that'd be great to not wait another 10 years to song to some.
Yeah. I'd like to do another one soon later. Yeah.
Good. Thank you so much for joining us, and let's see.
It's been awesome.
We'll talk after a little bit. I want to bring some up with you fellas, but let's it was great. I'm so glad this worked out.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys.
All right, y'all have a good New Year's. Hope you have a good time, and let's good luck with everything. I'll definitely be pumping and pushing and promoting this, and yeah, man, definitely looking forward to next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
I know you's out there in the tall grass, waiting for me. But there ain't no take-backs with the devil. Mark 3, wise malingering man, to give me gifts as fine as 13.
Hey now. Thank you so much for tuning in here at Politics and Paper. If you like what I do and you support my work, go ahead and subscribe. I greatly appreciate it and really helps to support what we do here.